Atlantic City of the 1890s was largely a culture of Victorian expectations and manners. There was a tempting combinations of amusements, beer gardens, gambling dens, and houses of prostitution. But the average visitor was expected to act civilized and enjoy what the resort had to offer without embarrassing themselves or others. Steel Pier opened in the midst of all this in 1898. It was one of the first entertainment meccas in the United States and set the bar for the industry at an extremely high level. Today I will talk to you about the rich history and interesting facts of the world-famous Steel Pier. To begin with a little bit of the history of the time here, Atlantic City was just becoming prosperous. People wanted to get away from the cities and hustle and bustle, so they would come to the shore town, which Atlantic City is right on the beach, along with its counterpart 40 miles away, Cape May, which is also a highly well-known Victorian town and was also one of the first destinations for people to come down to the shore. Atlantic City wasn't really like Cape May, though. As I said before, it had gambling, prostitution, alcohol. This is where Nucky Thompson first started his bootlegging business and would sell to cities up and down the New Jersey coast. Now, Steel Pier was one of the first entertainment destinations of its time. Built in 1898 and located in what was once nicknamed the World's Playground, Atlantic City, New Jersey. For much of the 20th century, Steel Pier was the center of American entertainment on the East Coast. There was big bands, movies, sideshows, acrobats, flagpole sitters, and the most famous act, the diving horse. Steve Leibowitz would say that this is the most famous act that had ever lived. This diving horse consisted of a horse and a woman riding it, as you can see, diving into a pool of water. Now, the horse would go up an angled incline, get to the top, and the woman would get on and dive into the pool. Now, the horse didn't always dive. Sometimes they would not want to dive and it would turn back down. They were never punished in the show. They would never be forced to dive if they didn't want to. There was no animal cruelty. They were well trained. Now, many famous performers got their start at Steel Pier. It was one of the best places to perform. Up there at the Copacabana and the top clubs in Chicago and New York City, Steel Pier was one of the top places to perform. It drew thousands of people, and they performed in what was known as the Marine Ballroom, which was a huge, huge ballroom set for dancing and singing and shows. Now, in Steve Leibowitz's book, he states that many of these performers, which I will list, got their start here, including Frank Sinatra, Bing Crosby, Bob Hope, the Three Stooges, Abbott and Costello, Jimmy Dorsey, and Benny Goodman, just to name a few. All these performers set up in Steel Pier and went on to become big-time performers. Now, in later years, the pier went on to be a grand mecca of entertainment for years and years, centuries. It's actually 114 years old right now. Well, in the midst of all those years, there was a fire in 1982, which burned the actual pier to half of its size. So it started out at 2,000 feet. The fire started in the back at the Aqua Circus, where they had human cannonball diving into the water, diving bell, which consists of a bell that like a submarine type bell that you went in and it plunged you down into the water. You couldn't really see anything because the Atlantic City water is so murky and brown, but people loved it anyways. Just the effect of going down into the water in a submarine type enclosure. Now, the fire started at the Marine Circus and started to work its way forward towards the boardwalk. The fire eventually stopped, but the half of that pier was gone and just eventually washed away into the ocean. Today, the pier still stands 1,000 feet long. The golden age of the pier seems a world apart, yet it was an institution, a grand treat served up with gusto and cotton candy. A destination not to be missed, and an empire of talent, grand thinking, impersonation, oddities, and glamour that meshed into one cohesive and attainable summer destination. The pier still stands and operates today as one of the top amusement parks in the world. Everybody who visits the Steel Pier always brings back their memories. They want to bring their grandkids there. They want them to appreciate the pier like they did. Unfortunately, it will never be the same as when it first started, but the Steel Pier is still there and still running today. Thank you.